going on, everybody? So updated meeting minutes have gone out for the West Deer Supervisors meeting from February. I thought we would take a look at how that meeting went and talk about it. Let's rock and roll.
Attached is planning zoning and code enforcement report. Are there any questions? Attached is West Deer number 1, fire department's report. Are there any questions? Attached is number 2's report. Are there any questions?
Now, while they're doing that, I will say
Attached is number 3's report.
that I recorded this sitting in the back of the room, and so it's going to be a little hard to hear, maybe, or a little tough to see, but I think it's important just to get it out there.
Anyone have any questions? Adoption of resolution 2025-2, the Iowa Plan of Lots Revision of 1 Sewer Planning Module. A resolution approving the DEP sewage facilities planning module for the Iowa Plan of Lots Revision number 1, which is attached. Mr. Shoup reviewed the PA Department of Environmental Protection Planning Module documents and found the planning module to be in proper order. Mr. Shoup therefore recommended that it be approved by the township. Mr. Shoup, anything to add?
Yes, this is a planning module associated with the subdivision that was approved by the board last year.
Sorry.
We're just now finally getting the sewage planning documents back to the township, and they are in position to be approved.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2025-2 approving the DEP sewage facilities planning module for the Island Plan of Lots Revision?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Hollabaugh, second by Mr. Wiggin. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Adoption of resolution 2025-3, which is the fee schedule.
There's the agenda. Feel free to pause.
Attached schedule of fees. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2025-3, amending the fees charged by the township as per the attached schedule of fees?
I have a question. I looked over those little changes. Am I mistaken? No, and I also gave an email from Mr. Shuck, that he highlights all the changes. Those are $10 changes. There are actually a couple decreases as well. I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Hollabaugh, second by Mr. Fleming. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Adoption of resolution number 2025-4, which is the Public Works Union Agreement. A resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Township of West Deer, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, ratifying the negotiated agreement by and between West Deer Township and the Service Employees International Local 668 Public Works Union effective January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2027, and approving and authorizing the execution of said agreement as presented. The draft is attached. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2025-4, ratifying the negotiated agreement between the two parties?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Hollabaugh, second by Mr. Smolin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Mr. Mayor, will you take a vote?
Sure. Mr. Smolin?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggin?
No.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Hollabaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Jordan?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion carries 4-1.
Hiring of a public works laborers. With the recent resignation of 2 public works laborers and the pending retirement of the third, the township had advertised for and interviewed applicants to fill the positions. After interviews and successful background investigations, it is the recommendation of the public works foreman and the township manager that Thomas Ciccone, thank you, Eric Fawcett, and Joseph Lawrence be appointed public works laborers with the township. Are there any questions regarding the hiring of those laborers? Do I have a motion to hire those three as full-time employees of West Deer Township and appoint as a public works laborers effective March 1, 2025, contingent upon successful drug and physical screenings?
I'll make that motion. I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Hollibaugh, second by Mr. Smolin, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Authorization for the,
Hi, Mom.
oh, I'm sorry, congratulations, I'm sorry. You guys wanna raise your hands and look and see who you are? There you go. Welcome to West Deer, thank you. Authorization for the total municipal asbestos abatement, Mr. Shook?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, I'll try to make this brief. The asbestos abatement contractor that the board awarded the abatement to is in the process of removing the asbestos from the old municipal building and noticed or basically found other areas where asbestos is. He suspected that this material that he found was asbestos containing material. This contractor's been in the business for 40 years, so after 40 years, you'll learn a thing or two. So we contacted our asbestos survey company, Mid-Atlantic Environmentals, who did the survey of the building, just to confirm that the material was indeed, and it did. It did come back as asbestos material, and turns out that the material covers approximately 2,800 square feet of the building. So now that we know it's there, obviously it needs to be abated.
That's a lot.
So the board, the current contractor did give a quote to remove this new material, and that quote is $19,355. So the board essentially has two options, however it so chooses to proceed. It can authorize the current contractor who's there to do this work for that amount, or not to exceed that amount, or we can go back and do the whole sealed bid process again, but that would involve a new survey. It would involve, a length of time for bids to be submitted. Then the board would have to award that bid, then the contractor, whoever chosen, would then have to mobilize, et cetera, et cetera. So that process would take multiple months at minimum. One other aspect of this, as you're all aware, the township did receive a grant through Allegheny County for the asbestos removal, demolition, and
Okay. Real quick. So if you're following this, what has happened is West Deer hired a company to take a look at the municipal building, and
so there is that aspect, and I believe Mr. Mayor may have spoken with the county today, whereas if this scope changed, does that potentially jeopardize that grant funding? And I don't know, did you wanna?
Sure, I spoke with the director of the GEDTF program today, and what she recommended doing is just pulling the asbestos out, changing the scope. We'll have a contract between us and the county by the end of next week, and she said just speak with our advisor and pull that portion out, pull the asbestos out altogether. That way, it'll just adjust the scope and give more money toward the dog shelter. That's what their advice is. So,
Why we approve that amount?
can you explain a little bit, are we gonna use some of the money they had allocated for the grant for the dog shelter?
Yeah. Yes, because the,
Well,
like,
how they give more money to the dog shelter?
it's not more, it's still $320,000 grant that we got. How that's divided up, like originally this
So we're
was
gonna
gonna
get
be
less
50/50.
money for the dog shelter.
No, you'll get more for the dog shelter, but it's still gonna be $320,000 total. And instead of more of that money going toward the asbestos abatement or demolition, less will go toward that, more will go to the dog shelter.
So we'll pay out of pocket.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have to.
If we're paying out of pocket, then I would suggest, wouldn't you suggest we get another bid, or do you guys think that's a fair bid for?
Can I just ask, did the surveyors miss this?
Yeah, are they responsible, all the ones that initially surveyed it?
So this material is actually part of the roof that was discovered, and when the survey, or the survey company, when he came out and we looked at this, he said in all the time he's done this, he's never seen asbestos in roofing material. Now,
What did we pay them for that survey?
I would have to look back at the quote, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
Are they responsible then for missing that?
No, I mean, they did an extensive search of the building. I mean, they had 3 employees here, and they did samples of every room, every hallway, pretty much everywhere that asbestos is commonly found, and, that didn't turn up.
Okay, so can we amend the grant to include the additional cost for the $19,000?
I think that's what Mr. Mayor is saying,
You know,
that,
if you go that route, you'd have to do what Mr. Shook said, you have to reopen everything to bids.
right,
You have to start all over again.
the seal bid process.
Otherwise, like, you're not gonna, the county isn't gonna allow you, they're not gonna authorize that
What's the
expenditure.
initial price they gave us for the asbestos was a building?
8,000, or 8,000?
The original, 8,200.
And now they're like-
8,200. That was the initial.
An additional 19 on top of the.
And the reason why, and this is the asbestos abatement contractor said that the reason why frankly it's so high is because he has to take off about 4 layers of roofing material on top of this to get to it. So there's basically the labor cost to get down to where this
An
is.
additional 19,000.
You can't do it from the bottom up, or otherwise the ceiling roof would collapse.
There's 4 roofs on there, 4 layers.
70-plus-year-old building, there's a lot on that roof.
Well, I don't want the taxpayers to have to pay it. I would suggest writing an amendment to the GEDTF grant.
Are they willing to accept the bids that we had?
Yes and no, they're willing to accept the bids as long as it follows the proper bidding procedure, which it did. But you really can't start something, if you start something before you sign the contract, technically it'll void that. So we really need to take out asbestos, period, because they already started the asbestos work.
Which is why I brought that up the last one.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's, like I said, no
But
matter
still.
what the board decides to do, you have a $320,000 grant. If it's $320,000 to the dog shelter, or 160, 160, it's still, at the end of the day, it's still the same thing.
But you're recommending we don't use any of the grant money, you're recommending we
Right.
take it out of the general fund.
Yeah, so what the board really needs to answer today, this is what Mr. Shook is alluding to. You need to decide whether or not you want to put this back out to bid, or if you're willing to accept the $19,000 proposal that the asbestos abatement, contractor gave us.
Plus the
Yes. Well, that's already been awarded though.
but they're not gonna pay for it. GEDTF.
No, but that's what I'm saying, like if you, whether the township pays out of its pocket or pays out of the grant, it's still gonna be the same thing, because instead of paying the $8,200, I'm just using the $8,200 right now. If you pay the $8,200 out of the grant,
We'd have that less money.
you'd have that much money that you have to pay the $8,200 for the dog shelter. So it's a wash at the end of the day. My recommendation as far as the grant is just amend the scope, that's easy. I can do that, I spoke with the county today, we're on the same page,
We don't want to risk losing the grant and not meeting it at once.
right? We're okay there.
We have the money
We're
already
okay.
in the budget to. We have enough in the budget, but
So I think what he's saying is that the bid came in for $8,200. It didn't include the roof. Now we know that the roof needs done for $16K or $19K or whatever that number was. And even though they missed it, it's not something that we were charged for initially. And so adding that to the scope, which has to happen because you can't have asbestos, that increases the amount that we have to pay by $19,000. And there's really no two ways around it. And you can't go, the first guy didn't necessarily do anything wrong. He just missed it because the asbestos was in the roof, which is fairly unusual. So that's when I think when he's saying it's a wash, I think that's kind of what he's talking about. I do appreciate Josh saying, how can we do this without affecting the taxpayers in any way? It's nice that somebody's thinking about that. I think sometimes they don't think about that. Anyway, let's move on.
Let me put it this way, the board budgeted that before the board even knew that we would receive the grant. So we, no matter what happened, whether we got the grant or did not get the grant, the board was planning on going through that process.
Is the grant gonna pay for the rest of the demolition?
It could, because the demolition hasn't started yet. But again, if like we tell me when that scope, there's more than enough.
Oh, that's interesting. The demo hasn't started yet.
And everything else we talked about, the utilities, to meet that. Mr. Rob, do you want to opine?
I would like to give my 2 cents, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So when this was originally presented to me, the first question I asked is, I think what a lot of you were thinking was, is awarding just this additional scope of professional services in the form of asbestos abatement, is that going to run afoul of the county grant guidelines or requirements? Because what I did want to do, obviously, was have the township risk $320,000 over $19,000. And so this has obviously fairly recently come to a head. I spoke to Mr. Shook and Mr. Mayor, and it wasn't until the meeting, I think, when Mr. Mayor found out that, I think the short answer is it would have to be bid because those grant requirements do require bidding for all this type of work. And because this is a professional service, that the state does not require bidding under the township bidding laws, and the township charter does not require bidding for professional services. So I don't have an opinion budget-wise, that's above my pay grade, literally, but
That contractor didn't look at the building, but he based it on the analysis.
right, they take the survey work and to your point about whether it's missed, something
That coming before?
Maybe on School Street, what's the way the School Street we use them?
Yes, the two houses that were recently done on School Street line are, yes, we need them.
It's a pretty good mix. The initial cost of $8,000 twice,
Another 4 layers of.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and I think the reason why there's really probably no recourse against the asbestos surveyor is that, that's a cost that was to be incurred anyway. I mean, it was missed, but it didn't really, there's not a lot of additional out of pocket. And especially if you keep the same contractors already on the job there, which, as I understand it, the real impediment to getting this demolition going, which I know everyone wants to do, is this asbestos component. So, should you decide to bid it, either number one, because you're concerned about the price, or two, because you want the grant to cover it, as Mr. Shook said, that's gonna push you back probably a couple months, and that pushes the whole demo process back a couple months, which is why for, less than $20,000, even though it's unfortunate,
Yeah.
it seems to make the most sense, at least. It's your decision as to whether it makes the most sense, but legally, I hope that covered your question.
So if we have the county grant money for this, I would hate to see the taxpayers have to pay for the cost.
I think it's a good point. They're gonna pay one way or the other. You're either gonna have
We're
one.
gonna get $320 no matter what we put it towards.
Yeah.
The dog shelter, demolition, it's the same money.
Well, as I said last month, I don't know if we come up with a price point for the dog shelter, but the area of
address this one first. What do we wanna do
So
with
the
it?
grant was 320.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not just for the auction, it's demolition.
Of the building.
Yeah, originally, if everybody out in the audience is wondering what's going on with this, originally when you apply for a grant, you'd like to use concrete figures, but you don't always have concrete figures. So, our estimate was, I spoke with Mr. Shoup, and we, based off of past demolitions, past asbestos abatements, we estimated that the cost of that building to demolish, abate the asbestos and demolish that building would be about $160,000. And if you put that in perspective, the, Church Street was what, 29?
Yeah, close to it all told.
And it's tiny, it's not a municipal building, it's a small little house. So that's what we based it off of, square footage and things like that. To everybody's surprise, it came in extremely low, the cost of demolition and asbestos.
What was the total cost?
About the same amount as mother.
They're almost 37,000
Yeah,
for both.
the tiny little house.
Yeah.
So we were surprised, which is good.
$37,000
That means we
to
don't
demo
pay
both the
any more
municipal
money,
building and the
but it
dog
also gave
shelter.
us a little bit of an issue because now we have to amend that scope for the grant program. So, but that's a good problem to have, you know, as opposed to like having to spend $160,000 there and having $160 for a dog shelter. Now we have potentially $320 for a dog shelter if we totally took the asbestos abatement and demo out of the equation, if we did that.
So we just need to make a motion to spend the additional 19, or not to exceed.
Think of
Right,
how
I
much
think
your
the
house
motion would be,
costs
something along the lines of a motion to.
and compare that
approve
to putting
additional
$320,000
asbestos
into a dog
abatement
shelter.
Services in an amount.
And I love
with the current
dogs.
Contract in an amount not to exceed, whatever that number
What is
is.
the number?
We
19,000.
take in foster dogs from this dog shelter.
Yeah,
Can we do it cheaper than that? Maybe we can.
So that's gonna include removing the old roof to get at that?
And that roof will pretty much be gone. They'll have
Four
to-
layers.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? I'll second it. So we have a motion to not to exceed $19,355 for the additional abatement removal.
Using the existing current contractors on site, right?
I mean, that's not a ton of money, but
We're paying for it out of the taxpayer.
you're doing it without public comment.
Wait a couple months.
Just leave us more freedom in the long run, and just split it up. You're gonna save money.
We're just delaying the dogs, we're delaying.
I thought every motion required public comment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Mayor, will you take a vote?
Mr. Smolin?
It's gonna be 4-1.
Mr. Reagan? Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Hollenbach?
Yes.
Mrs. Jordan?
Yes.
I'm sure the motion carries 4-1.
Authorization for West Deer Athletic Club land development. The applicant is seeking approval for land development approval for construction of an athletic facility. The applicant is John Hollabaugh. The location is 2150 Saxonburg Boulevard. Parcel 1510-M is in Mary-25. The zoning district is C2 highway commercial, and the request is to construct an athletic facility. The planning commission voted to recommend approval of the West Deer Athletic Club land development contingent upon satisfying all the comments in Scott Ship Engineering letter dated 1/16/25. Add 13 trees to the site to satisfy township code requirement. Update architectural facades along, if I'm saying that correctly, 100% of the front of the building and 50% of retention pond side of the building to comply with requirements of code section 210-59E. Obtain signed letters from adjoining neighbors stating they do not want screening along their property lines with the proposed building. Are there any questions regarding the West Deer Athletic Club land development?
Mr. Shoup, I saw the letters from the neighbors and there were all the other line items of this.
They weren't.
Were you given my recommendations and concerns?
I did see concern about access to the site, I think was one of them. And then
I think I have the letters from the neighbors if you wanna see them.
Of the building?
Yes.
I I apologize, we didn't get the plans until after the planning commission meeting. The hydrant that's there currently on that lot, is that going to remain?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And are we gonna have access to it via the parking lot or that access?
From the parking lot, you will, and along the left side of the building, maybe the south side, yes, you have pretty good access. You probably could potentially get a smaller vehicle in the north, along the north side, but you're gonna be driving on grass over there.
Does it help to the fire department right across the street?
That's obviously the way it is.
And is that enough? The one concern was the parking lot space sizes, was that addressed? Are they made bigger?
Making the parking.
Here's some of the letters that were submitted.
Space. The spaces we go, either 9 by 20, 9 by 20.
And there's enough?
There's 55 of them, I believe, below.
Do we have any other questions? Wish to approve the West Deer Athletic Club land development conditioned upon the successful completion of the recommendations made by the planning commission and the township engineer.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Small and second by Mr. Fleming. We'll take a roll call.
Mr. Wigan?
Yeah.
Mr. Fleming? Yes. Mr. Hollenbach? Mr. Smolin? Yes. Mrs. Jordan?
Yes.
Let me show the motion carries 3-1 with 1 abstention.
Discussion of
3-1 with 1
municipal
abstention.
property, West Deer Dog Shelter. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hall, you want to talk about this? You asked about this before, and you had spoken with Mr. Shoup?
Dog shelter?
Yes.
I was gonna recommend that we table that for tonight, just because we just got the maps, some of the property and the storage property and some other options over, we could maybe move the dog shelter. I think that's, we all need to take a better look.
Tabling that discussion.
Yeah, I was delinquent in getting the maps out. I think it would be best to have more of a level of staff and maybe involving a supervisor or two, but before we come back to the full board with, maybe some more solid ideas of where this thing could be sited.
Do you have a plan with the elevations on it, like from the new building, of this lot?
I'll give you, this one has this building, the whole 50 acres back here, the salt storage and
That's-
no, that's, I'll give you this one here.
Oh, I got you, okay. Alright, thanks. Okay.
Again, potentially
Then we'll go to
$320,000 tabled for the dog
Or we
shelter.
could just put it on the agenda next month, if we have more information.
That'll be interesting to hear them talk about that in March.
New business for future discussion or action?
Is there anybody planning on going to the Avon conference?
Did he say Avon?
Any announcements? I don't think we have any announcements. Did I get anything? Public comment on non-agenda matters of general township concern. The board will hear comment on non-agenda related items of general concern at this time. I wish to approach the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comment to 3 minutes, please.
Public comments where it's all at.
Vicki Austin, Hemlock Street. At
And
one
it's
of the
never in the
previous
minutes.
month's meetings, Mr. Fleming and the fire departments agreed to meet. I just wondered if that meeting had taken place and if there was any feedback from it. Thank you.
It did take place, and, there's no resolution to it as of yet.
Hi, Robert Wazorek, I live at 3560 Huntertown Road. And back in October, we had discussions regarding 3562 Huntertown Road, William Breyer's house. I was wondering if there was anything going on? Cause it's 4 months now since that meeting, but this spring will be 4 years since that house has been in a condition.
So at the last meeting, when we decided not to condemn it, they were supposed to come to us with a plan
Right.
to do the work. Has that happened yet?
Yes, they're in communication with me again. I can't get into, for legal reasons, I can't get into a lot of that detail, but yes, they're in contact with me.
So there's progress being made.
Yes.
My name's Mike McCary. I'm a property owner on 6 Barber Road. And, I'm in a bit of a dilemma down there.
Could you spell your last name for me, please?
McCary, V as in Victor, I-C-C-A-R-I.
Thank you.
I've been tied up for about 1.5 years down there. When I first bought that property, the first thing I did was come to the township and ask them about what I needed to do to proceed with the property. I told them what I wanted to do and what property I was gonna buy. At that time, Mr. Payne was the code guy. I asked him what I needed to do. He asked me if I was gonna do any construction on the building, any outside additions. I said, no, I'm not. I said, anything I'm gonna do is demolish the porch. He gave me the okay to proceed. He said, as long as you're working inside, you're okay. I did. I proceeded. This was during COVID. When COVID first came around. During the process of time, it took 1.5 years or so work we did in the place. Mr. Payne walked through there at least 3 times. I have witnesses that walked through there with him. I hired all reputable contractors to work with myself. Every contractor that I had work with me was at least 40 years in business. I got the electrical inspected. I got the plumbing inspected by the county. All this was approved. And now I'm in a standstill because the township wants me to go in and reopen all those walls and get all that stuff re-inspected again. They're asking me to go in there with a net architect, with an engineer. It's gonna cost me $30,000 just for the engineer, plus the damage he's gonna do, plus the reconstruction. I'm looking at like $45,000. I really think that's so unfair because you guys kinda like, it felt like the rules were changed on me halfway through this thing. It was okay. They gave me, when I was done, I went to the township again. I said, I'm all done. Is it okay for me to rent? They said, okay. I had tenants in the property. I was forced to evict the tenants. Well, all I'm looking for here is a little relief from all these inspections. They were inspected. I do.
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
This matter has been in litigation. I've been in discussions with Mr. Vicari's attorney. I'd asked the board not to engage any further or offer any further comments on this matter. Mr. Vicari is well aware of what needed to be done, what needs to be done. We've discussed that with his, and the reasons why, and the reasons revolve around safety of the people.
We need to find out more about this.
Look, I'm willing to make my building safe.
Sir, I can't speak with you. You're represented by counsel.
Don't cut him
so
off.
We can't have this conversation.
Don't cut him off. It's public comment. He's allowed to speak.
I have new counsel and will be involved with
If
this.
you have new counsel, then that's who we'll speak with.
Doesn't have to be that way.
Okay.
If he doesn't have counsel, he can speak with this gentleman. I don't know the whole story, but something about that sounds a little fishy.
Scott Wolzek, Schuster Road. I wanted you to pass
Mater
a
sounded-
message on to the road department about the work that they did in the past ice storm we had. I think the roads were handled very well. I drove from another location through a couple of municipalities, and ours were by far the best done, so you can tell them that they're doing a good job.
There's a lot of
with what
complaints
they
about
have.
roads, and I don't think they're fair either, so we appreciate that.
Another thing is I have on Schuster Road at the bottom, coming down to the stop sign, when they paved that, they were getting to the bottom of the intersection, they ran out of asphalt. The paver created a dip in there, which was allowed to be left in there, and now it's becoming unraveled. The township won't be able to patch that with cold patch. It's gonna need to be addressed. Mr. Shoup can maybe look at that and see what's gonna need to be done. The same problem happened on Benjamin Street in the dip there. It came unraveled and they had to go back and address that. So I think that may need to be done. And is there something we can do to communicate with our water company? Everybody rides through all those dips that they leave. Most of them are in the township, or on the state and county roads. But there's a few on the township roads. One's on Kaufman Road that has gotten bad, and now it's starting to encroach out into the travel lane. And is there something we can do to force them to fix this a little better? We do a good job on our roads, paving them, keeping them in good shape, and then they come and dig holes and throw some coal patch in there, and that's the way they are until we come by and pave it the next 5
I
years.
think this is that property
Thank you.
Thank you.
on Burger Road. Yeah. Newark Apartments.
Before we continue, while you're making notifications, can we put a call into PennDOT for Oak Road? Where it's starting to slide over the hill at the top.
Okay.
Nicole Zealand, 42 Glasgow. I was wondering when the new zoning ordinance will be uploaded to eCode 360.
They have it. It's up to them. I mean, we actually just communicated with them this week because we sent it to them back in September. And it's still, if you go on the website, it's under that new laws tab. We've asked them when they're gonna take out the old one, and we're waiting for that response.
Okay, so it's on the platform then?
Yes, it
Thank
is.
you.
And it's also on the web, I mean, you're right. It's also on the website too. The new ordinance is on the, planning and zoning, page on the website. There's a link right there too. Yeah.
Thank you. I was also wondering if we would be able to live stream township meetings to improve accessibility to residents. There are many other townships nearby who do this.
I came to this meeting to say the exact same thing.
The Allegheny County Health Board also does this as well, and they allow residents to submit questions and comments ahead of time. I believe this would be a great way to increase engagement and connection in our community.
Good
and
for
it would
her.
also be a great opportunity to involve high school students in local government. For example, if we get the AV Club to help set up the streaming capabilities. Thank you.
Good for her.
So I just made a comment for everybody. We made the decision, all of our
They have a
meetings
camera in the back of the room, by the way, mounted to the back wall.
now are, all the transcripts are online, so you can hear every and unfortunately we say, but everything is word for word on there.
So just to add to that, that's not loaded until after we approve the meeting, the minutes of the meeting.
Go check it out on the West Deer Township website. It takes like a month and a half for any of that to be posted. So if you're willing to wait a month and a half, for those of you that can't come to the meeting, that's unreasonable, in my opinion.
I said I'm fine with the transcripts being on and off live from last year.
Bev's fine with it just being written transcripts. This meeting's going to be a 150-page transcript.
Would you like it on the agenda for next month? Your opinion?
We could do that if we want to, yeah.
I can do it.
What's that?
I have to do it actually live. Mr. Fleming, give an opinion?
No.
We can talk about it. Here, that's all right. I have a motion to adjourn at, sorry.
No, that's okay. Bob McCon, 936 Copper Creek Trail. A few things. I would echo what the previous speaker had to say about live streaming these meetings.
Boom.
It seems the common sense progressive thing to do these days when you see so many other municipalities and councils and so forth doing that for their constituents who can't get here to read it or hear it post or whatever. I don't think that makes much sense. Couple other things. The various reports that are approved during the meetings, the EMS, police, fire, public works, and so forth, are those available to the public?
No.
Is there a reason for that?
They don't want them to be made public.
None
No,
of
the
those
reports are definitely available.
The reports are on there, you mean their financial or their other reports?
The police chief reports, public works, engineers, planning, zoning, and code enforcement, West Deer.
Oh, they're
Those
on
are
the
all
agenda.
those are all
They're on the
available for you to
agenda.
view.
It says they're available for inspection. They're available up here. It's just it's the financial reports that are disclosed.
Okay, but all these other reports are available to the public?
Yes.
Online or?
Online?
Most of them, Mr. McKenna, if you look at the agenda, they're actually in there.
Okay.
So.
Online?
If you go to the agenda.
So if you go through the agenda, you'll see
Yeah,
them.
I looked at the agenda
All
for
the
this
actual
meeting
reports
earlier
that you
today, and they
approve
were
of.
all in there.
Yes.
Okay, appreciate that.
You get the EMS, the police, all
I
three
go
fire
up and down
departments.
910 a few times a week, it's probably.
And a variety of
you
other
can
commissions.
do. During the day especially, I've noticed these tandem dump trucks that are just really flying up and down the roads, Chief, so I don't know if it's something that you've been aware of. I'm sorry?
We'll address it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yes.
And just as another matter, I don't quite understand how somebody bids a job based on another person's report and doesn't do their due diligence to look to what you said were 4 layers of shingles or roofing to understand better what their scope of work would be. And you could say it's grant money, it's gonna be covered by municipal money or whatever. At the end of the day, it's money being spent that I don't think any of you should, or we as taxpayers should be responsible to pay for.
They
Sounds to me
definitely
like
missed it,
This contractor.
but we would have had to do it anyway. They missed it, and we thought it would be cheaper, but it wasn't. So now it's going to be, what, $30,000? We would have had to do it anyway. It sucks, but it's not going to cost us any more than it would have otherwise. It would have cost us $30,000 no matter what. But we just didn't know about it until now. I still don't like that they did not take any public comment before deciding to use that contract.
Just missed something. It should in some fashion be held accountable. It's not
I'm
something
not
that I
sure
think
that
we the taxpayers
that's
know
allowable.
that grant should be used for.
In the West Deer Charter.
Thank you.
I'll be 1 minute.
Here I go.
Hi, Steve
I had
Brennan on
to- I had to
Bakerstown,
say my
Colorado
piece.
Road. I want to also echo that we should be live streaming these meetings, just for transparency. You know, I ask my neighbors what's going on. They don't know, you know, and unless they're walking in this room, and some people can't. And as for the transcripts, I get it, you know, but not everybody can read, and they're not going to have somebody read them a 20-page transcript or however long it is. I imagine it's longer.
I was
than
way
that.
off on that.
Yeah, why not be open and transparent and give accessibility to what's going on in our town? That's all. Thank you.
A meeting like this, it's not going to be 20-page transcript.
Russ Stumpville Road, just to kind of touch base on some of the other things. Curious to see if there's a way to provide some clarity as far as like the bidding process. So say for example, like the demolition, whenever it got bid, or any project, if something gets uncovered after the fact that a project starts and then there creates the need to adjust the pricing on it, to me like that's perceived as, instead of the contractor or the business or whatever taking the financial risk of committing in legal ways to say, hey, we're going to do this job for $20,000, $30,000, whatever the price may be.
People don't understand
instead
it.
of them taking that risk.
We didn't give them the opportunity to understand
Unexpected change.
what this is all
Wouldn't
about.
that be essentially the taxpayers in blindly taking a financial risk? In reference to, if I remember correctly, it was Deller Professional Services, John Deller, who did or is gonna be doing the demolition work. I remember, he used to have a car detailing business in the 90s out in Hampton, and I knew whenever he transitioned into doing demolition work, he actually took down the wrong house down in Pittsburgh, which is obviously a problem. So I was just thinking in reference to like why would it be why would
People
the
don't
taxpayer,
understand.
the local residents, be at risk of having to pay
The
actual,
West Deer
to pay
Township
for the mistake of the bid?
community
You know, if the bid
has
should have
had
been bid higher, would
15 minutes to digest this
fully,
before it
pay
was
for the
voted on.
project.
We might have done the right thing. I think we might have done the right thing. But this is why we have public comment, to get these questions answered before you take a vote on it, you know? Before you take a vote on it. It's tough. Well, guys, thank you for spending a few minutes